Hey everybody, welcome back to the Film Fan Club. Sam Carrico here. Man, it seems like there's absolutely nothing good that's new in theaters this weekend. So I thought I'd take the liberty of talking about a movie that had everybody else talking about 2 weeks ago. Here's my review, finally, of Mother. Just so you know, this will be my spoiler-free review of the movie. Whether you like it or not, this is definitely something that needs to be experienced in theaters, so I don't want to really give away too many details. That being said, in a vague sense, the movie centers on Jennifer Lawrence's character, who is the love interest to Javier Bardem. They both are in a relationship, having just recently moved into Javier Bardem's childhood home, which had been destroyed in a fire. Jennifer Lawrence has been renovating it and getting it back up to snuff for the two of them to live in. And just kind of without going into too many details, people start showing up at the house. Craziness starts to ensue. The relationship between Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence is really put to the test, and it was described to me, this movie, as being like an allegory, being an experience rather than just a movie. It's like, I had heard it's like poetry done through cinema, and once you see this movie, you really understand that that's definitely an apt description. This was directed by Darren Aronofsky, who is the filmmaker behind other stuff like Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, Noah, all movies that are very widely controversial and very divisive among audiences and critics, and this movie is definitely no exception. It's got a lot of people confused, mad. I was in the movie, whenever I was seeing it, two people left the screening that I was actually at, so a lot of people seems to be kind of confused. I think the trailers did a kind of a weird job of marketing this more as a typical horror movie, whereas this is more of a character study. This is a kind of a stripped down look at how in the most broadest way possible to explain it. My interpretation of the film is what it's like whenever you give your all to somebody who is giving their all to something else. Because throughout this movie, Jennifer Lawrence is constantly trying to please Javier Bardem, and then by the time you get to the end of the film, this is perfectly cemented, the fact that their relationship is just so flawed, and it's really smart the way that Aronofsky is able to put in situations and external events that happen in the script that kind of it happens externally. It's, something, whether it be someone showing up at their house or something going wrong, but the way that it reflects what's going on with the motivations of the characters and what's going on just within their emotions, it's really well done. There's so many different layers of allegory to this that it may kind of miss it. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I missed. That being said, it does, I think, feel like it's a little bit to the film's fault that it does kind of get a little bit caught up with Aronofsky's artistic vision for the movie. Kristen Wiig's character in this film, her role is a little bit confusing, and it kind of, as the film moves into the third act, it becomes more and more hectic, and this film is just downright not cohesive. Now, I was going into the movie expecting something that wasn't like your typical film, but I could see why this is definitely it could definitely be a lot to swallow for the average audience member. Also, a little bit with going into too much of the Darren Aronofsky's artistic vision and a little bit getting lost in it, there's some very disturbing imagery and then some stuff that happens towards the end of the film where I feel like he could have made his point without showing just some downright brutal, disturbing imagery that was included in the film just to make it feel like more of a, brutal art house type of thing. I feel like he went a little bit too far in certain areas with the scary imagery in the third act, and then Kristen Wiig's kind of confusing role in this film being a couple indicators of it without going into spoilers. And given that the film starts us off right at the beginning of the struggles between Javier Bardem's and Jennifer Lawrence's characters, it would have been a little bit nice to kind of get some good moments between the two of them to kind of get us into the relationship and understand why it's such a sad thing that it's falling apart. But that being said, as I'm saying that, I feel like it all comes together very much so in the end, because the final shot of this film, the final couple moments of this movie, you kind of can see it coming a little bit as the resolution starts to kind of take hold. But nevertheless, whenever it does happen, I think it's really satisfying. This is a movie that's not for everybody, and it definitely does have its flaws, even for someone like me who enjoyed most of it. But I was just really relieved, especially seeing this in a double feature with Kingsman 2, where in an age where we have so many big budget blockbusters that are made solely just to get a studios a big paycheck, it's nice to see, it's very refreshing to see a movie like this where it's like if an auteur filmmaker has a vision for something that's so poetic and unconventional, and he's able to make it with a big budget studio like Paramount behind him and sticking by him, even as this film hasn't been seeing much box office success. I think it definitely deserves a little bit more so, but it's not surprising that this is having a hard time finding its audience. I enjoyed it. There were a couple other things that I kind of mentioned earlier, just a few things that kind of either went over my head or kind of brought the film down from achieving true greatness, but I was just so happy to see that they took such a risk on this, and I think it was a risk well taken. So I'm going to go ahead, give it 7 out of 10. Well, thanks so much for checking this video out, guys. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel for more content like this. Also, I was on the most recent Opinions Like A-Holes podcast, hosted by Hilton Price and Michael Zampino. It was a lot of fun to get a record. We just basically talked about some movie trailers, TV news, some other fun stuff. Make sure you check that out. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well while you're at it, at Samuel D. Carrico, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again.